Have you ever seen someone with a classic 9 to 5 fitness routine and thought, that'll never work for me? The industry just makes it too hard. The long hours, the unpredictable shifts, the exhaustion. I get it. The guys that I work with feel this every single day. So you just don't try. You accept that fitness isn't for hospitality workers. You watch everybody else make progress with their perfect routines while you're stuck thinking your job makes it impossible. Well, here's what I help my clients to see. Your job, in a lot of ways, is actually an advantage. And I know what you're thinking, no chance. But I'm going to show you 4 reasons why your job as a chef gives you fundamental advantages over people with a 9 to 5 office routine. Things that you probably don't even realize are working in your favor when it comes to fitness. Let me show you what I mean. The first advantage is that fat loss is easier for you than for a 9 to 5 office worker. And I get it if you're skeptical. You're surrounded by food all day, you're tasting dishes constantly. You taste something during prep and before you know it, you've eaten way more than you intended to. So how is fat loss easier? Well, compare your situation to an office worker for a second. They're sitting at a desk all day. There's a kitchen right there, fully stocked with any biscuit you could imagine, tea, coffee, basically whatever you want. They're also doing pretty boring work that doesn't keep them very occupied, which means they're probably thinking about food constantly. They're thinking when their next break is, they're thinking when they're going to get a cup of tea and a biscuit, they're thinking about their lunch break, and they're hardly burning any calories during the day because they just sit in the same place and type away. But as a chef, you're on your feet all day. You're lifting pretty heavy things, you're sweating in a hot kitchen, you're staying busy. And yes, food is around you, but you're focused on prepping the food. You're focused on service. You're not focused on eating all the food, hopefully anyway. And here's the big one. Your body, because of all that activity, because you're on your feet, is already burning a lot of calories. Hundreds of calories every single shift. Office workers can't even compare to that. So the gap between where you are and where you need to be for fat loss, honestly, it's not very big. The activity's already there. You just need a bit of structure. And by structure, I don't mean some rigid bodybuilding plan. I just mean having some roughly timed meals in the day, even if those change based on your shifts. You don't have to eat at exactly the same time every day. It could be that you have a meal at 2 p.m. and then 8 p.m. and then another day you eat a little bit earlier or later depending on how the day goes. So let me show you what this actually looks like, because this was one of the first things that one of my clients asked me about. So Rick came to me over the summer and literally on his onboarding call, before we'd even gotten started, he asked me about tasting dishes. What do you actually do with all your clients around all of the tasting? Because he knew that that was one of his biggest problems. He was tasting and refining dishes constantly and it was adding up without him even realizing. So here's what we did. 3 things. 1, reduce the tasting. Don't eliminate it. Obviously, you've still got to taste the dishes you make. That's literally your job. But instead of tasting and refining a dish 8 to 10 times, try and squeeze that down to 3 or 4. Sometimes you only need 1 or 2, but just being aware of that can help reduce it a little bit. The second thing is to add structured meals. Not rigid, just go into the day with a plan. I'm going to eat 2 proper meals today. Maybe that's at 2 p.m. and then 10 p.m. Maybe it changes based on what shift you're on. But the point is you've decided in advance instead of just grazing and picking at things all day because you know you need to eat something. And then the third thing is to stop the cascade. That's the bit where you taste something and then you grab a few chips and then you're snacking on something else. The tasting is part of your job, but the cascade after it isn't. Structure your meals so you're not hungry enough to start the cascade in the first place. So Rick did this for 8 weeks, and in that time he lost 5 kilos. No extra cardio, no dramatic diet changes, just structure layered on top of the activity that he was already doing. That's it. Add a bit of structure and everything else, better habits and ultimately weight loss, cascades from there. So that's the first advantage. Now let me show you the second one. And this one's pretty wild because most people can't do this. You can build muscle and stay lean at the same time. Now you've probably heard the standard advice. Bulk up, gain a bit of muscle along with some fat, and then you diet down to get rid of the fat and reveal the muscle that you've built. But what if you don't want to get fat just to build some muscle? Well, let me tell you about my client, Michael. He was more on the skinny side and he tried joining the gym before, he tried just eating more in order to bulk up. But the unpredictability of his work just made it really, really tough for him to stay consistent. He wasn't really following a proper plan with it. So he'd start, drop off, start again, and never really see results. So when we started working together, we made sure to structure his training around his rota, around the days off that he had each week. Nothing fancy, but just something that worked with his life instead of against it. And fast forward 16 weeks, he's gained 4 kilos, which doesn't sound like an awful lot, but at the same time, he's gotten leaner, like quite a lot leaner. Think about that for a second. He's heavier, but he's lost body fat. That tells us he's probably built more than 4 kilos of muscle, which is pretty good going. But here's the key realization. His work is what's helping him stay lean and actually get leaner. If he was just sitting at a desk all day, there's no chance he'd have seen that same result. He'd have done the classic gain muscle and fat and then diet the fat back off. But as a chef, you get to skip that step. Your shifts are doing most of the work of the dieting phase for you. So that's 2 massive advantages already, both from the same thing, the fact that your job is very active. So there's 2 more. And the next one is something you use every single day, but you've probably never thought about it that much. You actually know how to cook. And it seems obvious, but it matters more than most people think. Because when most people are trying to lose weight and or build muscle, they hit a wall with nutrition. I've seen it time and time again, and it's not because they don't know what to eat. The wall is that they don't know how to make it taste good. So they end up eating bland chicken and rice and boring meal prep that they actually hate eating. Stick with it for about 2 weeks, maybe 3, and then they give up. Not because the plan didn't work, but because the food was absolutely miserable. And here's the thing, for most people, full stop, nutrition is the hardest piece of the puzzle. But you're sitting there with years of training on how to make food taste incredible. You know how to take a few ingredients and turn them into something really, really good. You know how to build a meal around a protein source and make it something that you actually look forward to eating. And let me show you what this looks like when a chef actually has the right framework. Kevin's been working with me for about 10 months now, and he's done something that most people never manage. His nutrition has been absolutely locked in consistently for probably about 9 months. And it's not because he's got more willpower than anyone else, it's because he's a chef. Once I gave him the right framework, here's how much to eat. Here's roughly how much protein you need. Here's how to think about your meals. He just took it and ran with it. He has a smoothie in the morning, he has a protein-based meal at work, he knows how to put a staff meal together to fit his goals, and what to lean on when he can't get a proper meal on shift. He's figured all this out because he has the cooking knowledge to make it all work. Most people get that information and they still can't execute because they don't have the skills in the kitchen. You do. Give a chef the right framework and they will sort the rest out themselves, just like a recipe. So that's 3 advantages: activity levels, body composition, and cooking skills. There's 1 left, and this is what most chefs see as their biggest barrier. The 4th advantage is that your change in rota means you get to avoid the gym chaos. And I know this is probably the one that you're going to push back against the most, because the constantly changing schedule and rota feels like the thing that prevents consistency from happening. You can't go to the gym straight from work, you can't go before work, or if you can, it's only for a week and then things change again the following week. But I want you to think about what office workers have to deal with for a sec. They finish work at 5 o'clock, everyone heads to the gym at about the same time, it's absolutely rammed, you can't get on any equipment, you're just waiting around trying to use whatever machine you can get on. But because your shifts change, because your days off aren't typically weekends, you can get to the gym when it's quiet. You can get straight on the machines you need, there's less stress, and you get a much better workout in. But I know that sounds good in theory, so let me tell you about Scott. He's a head chef at a small live-in pub, so he works a lot of split shifts, and most of his days off, he does have to go into the kitchen at some point just to check things are going okay. So when he first came to me, he saw his work as this massive barrier. It was just this thing that was getting in the way of having any sort of routine, having any kind of consistency with his running that he was doing at the time. But after a few months of training with the new systems that we had in place, he started to see the other side of things. The split shifts were actually working perfectly for him. He could go for a run before work, and then he could do his workout during his split. His day was naturally broken up in a way that created space for his workouts, and it gave him enough time in between so that he had the energy for all of this activity that he was doing outside of work. It gave him structure that he didn't think was possible. So yes, your unpredictable schedule is not ideal, but it is flexible. And flexible is a massive advantage. You just need a plan that moves with your rota instead of against it. And if you want to see what that would look like for you specifically, you can check out the link below. But yeah, it's not easy working in hospitality, but it could just be the advantage that you've not been able to tap into yet. And if you're thinking, all right, yeah, I get it, makes sense, but how do I actually get started with all this stuff? I don't even know where to begin. Well, lucky for you, I made a video on exactly that. You can go watch it here. It walks you through how to set this all up around your schedule step by step. So go watch that now, or you can check out the link below.